I hereby open the special meeting of the Springfield Planning Commission. Can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Chair Buck,
Present.
Vice Chair Schmunk,
Here.
Commissioner Greenwell,
Here.
Commissioner Thompson,
Here.
Commissioner Driggs,
Here.
and Commissioner Weber.
Here.
Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Hearing none, let's move to the Pledge of Allegiance. Those in attendance in person, please recite the pledge. Those in line are muted. Pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to call for the approval of the minutes of April 1st, 2025. Are there any corrections to the minutes as published in the packet? Hearing none, I hereby approve the April 1st, 2025 minutes. All right. Now we are on to business from the audience. We will now take business from the audience. This is the time in our agenda for the public to provide testimony on any topic relevant to the Planning Commission, not otherwise on our agenda tonight. Later in the meeting, there will be a public hearing with an opportunity to address the Planning Commission on the specific topic of the proposed Highlands site plan review. If there's anyone online, do we have anybody online, Sarah, other than the commissioners?
No, we only have the commissioners and we have only the applicant representatives in the audience.
Okay, excellent. If there are, so there's nobody that needs to fill out a card? Okay. Hearing no other business from the audience, we'll move on to our agenda item, the Highland Site Plan Review. This is a continued public hearing from March 18th, where we are considering the Highland Site Plan Review application. As an initial matter, the Planning Commission needs to formally accept the modified application, which is required by the City Development Code. Do any commissioners object to considering the modified application materials from the applicant? Commissioner Thompson, you good? Okay. All right. Since there are no objections, I will now open the public hearing on this item. We'll start by asking the planning commissioners to disclose any conflicts of interest, bias, or expiatory contact, or personal knowledge of relevant facts. Sandy, can we do this with a roll call?
Sure. And then after that, we'll have Mary Bridget give an overview of the process.
Oh, I am
So-
sorry, Mary Bridget. I skipped right over your part. I apologize.
That's okay. I can follow Sandy. No problem.
So I'll ask for the ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest, starting with you, Chair Buck.
No conflicts of interest or ex parte contact. I am familiar with the site in question. I drive by down High Banks Road like twice daily, so I have knowledge of the site.
Right. So if there's anything that comes up that you specifically have knowledge of that's not in the public record that you want to bring into the discussion, you can do that at the time.
Thank you.
And then Commissioner Greenwell.
No ex parte contact, no conflict of interest I'm aware of. However, I will note, I know the applicant socially, although I have not talked with him in many months, and certainly not about this issue. So I should not have any bias whatsoever.
Thank you. Commissioner Weber.
No conflict of interest or ex parte contact.
Commissioner Thompson.
No conflicts of interest, bias, or ex parte contact. Thank you.
Commissioner Schmunk.
No conflicts of interest or ex parte contact.
And Commissioner Driggs.
No conflicts of interest or ex parte contact.
And Commissioner, if I could, I'm going to read into the record the legal rights for this continued public hearing. This is a continuation of a public hearing on a tentative site plan application. The application has been modified. The applicable criteria of approval no longer include the major variance criteria because that was withdrawn. The criteria for the tentative site plan application are in section 5.17.125 of the Springfield Development Code. The criteria are described in more detail in the staff report and posted on Springfield, Oregon Speaks, and they'll be summarized by staff during the presentation. Please make sure your testimony is directed at the applicable criteria of approval. If you want the Planning Commission to consider your testimony and to preserve your right to appeal the decision to the City Council, you must testify orally and in writing to the Planning Commission before they close the record. You must raise an issue clearly enough so people understand it and offer evidence and support, or else you cannot raise that issue on appeal to the council or later to LUBA. If you are the applicant, you must raise concerns about the conditions of approval clearly enough to allow the Planning Commission to respond and to preserve your right to seek damages in circuit court. Before the start of the continued hearing, the members of the Planning Commission stated whether they had a potential or actual conflict of interest. A potential occurs if the commissioner's recommendation could result in a financial benefit or the avoiding of a detriment for themselves or their household or a business with which they're associated. A actual conflict of interest is if that would occur. If such a conflict exists, the commissioner will explain the nature of the conflict. If it's actual, they must step down. If it's potential, they can still participate. Commissioners will also state whether they have discussed the application in question with any of the parties or have any independent knowledge of relevant facts, such as from a visit to the site in question. If they have such ex parte contacts, they must be disclosed. If a commissioner has independent knowledge of relevant facts, the commissioner must summarize those facts if they are not already included in the record. Unlike conflicts of interest, commissioners only need to disclose any ex parte contacts or independent knowledge of relevant facts they have not already disclosed during the first public hearing. During the time of their testimony, a witness may challenge the impartiality of a planning commissioner and may rebut the substance of the commissioner's knowledge of the facts. The commissioner in question then may respond. Chair, it is appropriate to now open the continued public hearing and move forward.
Thank you. Now I'd like to open the public hearing by party declared biases. So I believe we're going to hear now from Andy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Good evening. This item has been continued from the public hearing back in March. The difference in the modified application is that the applicant has proposed to pave the driving lanes and maneuvering areas on the site, formerly proposed as compacted gravel. And the parking spaces or the sites that are be rented to the RV users would be compacted gravel. So the applicant is terming it a hybrid design. So the actual movement of the vehicles would be on a paved surface, which would prevent dust from being exposed to the atmosphere. It would also keep gravel and debris from being tracked out onto the public street system or the shared driveway off of 52nd Street. So I'm just going to bring up the PowerPoint. So if you bear with me, we can familiarize commissioners with the site, which is located off High Banks Road. It's just south of the former Blue Water Boats facility. It's now occupied by Toon Foods. This was a former sand and gravel quarry that's being reclaimed under a permit from the State Department of Geology and Mineral Resources, also known as DOGAMI, Department of Geology and Mineral Industries. So it's DOGAMI. Just hopefully click to the next slide. Can you maximize the window? Does it allow that? trying to point it right at the site. There we go. Okay, so the proposed development area does not comprise the entire property. It's the northern portion of the site. And there is an existing remnant man-made pond along the eastern boundary of the site. And that kind of factors into some of the staff report, especially as it pertains to drainage and landscaping requirements. So this is the original, so you want to see that's what says modified tentative plan. I'm going to go with the original tentative plan, which is back one. I'm not able, there we go. So originally the applicant had provided a proposal for a 340 space RV storage facility comprised of compacted gravel. The gravel would be particularly robust in areas where there would be both RVs and also potentially emergency vehicles traveling across the site. There are proposed stormwater management facilities on the northern and southern edges of the development area. And the site is proposed to be graded such that the water essentially runs off either to the north or to the south and is captured and infiltrated on the site. Because there is no public stormwater system or actual discharge point off-site, all of the stormwater will be resident on the site in any event. And so the applicant is obligated to manage it somehow. And they're proposing linear swales to capture and infiltrate the drainage. And in the event of any runoff, there are parallel facilities for infiltration trenches. They're essentially rock line trenches. So in the event that there's a extreme rainfall event and the swales are overtopped, they can't infiltrate fast enough, the water would seep into a rock chamber essentially and just disperse into the ground. It would not affect any public or private property off site. And minimal to no drainage would be directed into the existing pond itself. So as a result of discussions with staff and after the presentation that was made to the Planning Commission back in February, the applicant revised their site design to provide for paved driving lanes and compacted gravel surfaces for essentially static storage of the vehicles, boats, and trailers that would be stored on the site. This proposal was reviewed by the city engineer and it was deemed acceptable to meet the purposes of a durable industry surface that's outlined in the development code. It also does not appreciably change the stormwater management scheme for the property. So what the applicant has shown in their original proposal can also be utilized in this modified proposal. So the site landscaping plan that was originally proposed shows grassy swales along the northern and southern edges, and then landscaping along the western boundary where it abuts a shared private driveway. In your staff report, you will see that staff has interpreted the northern boundary of the site to be the existing fence line. The property line is actually offset from this fence line to the north, and it's in the middle of the driveway. That's the shared driveway with Attune Foods. So in the interest of not requiring the applicant to move the driveway and then landscape that area, staff is recommending that the northern boundary of the project area, the development site, be the fence line, and that this area should be landscaped in accordance with the development code. The applicant is proposing a parallel swale system along the fence line, and they have presented to the commission tonight a request to change some of the conditions of approval to allow them to combine the swale and the landscaping along the northern boundary, which is allowable on private sites. So essentially, the landscaping requirement can be made up with the stormwater vegetation. However, it may not be just grass. And so the specification in your conditions of grassy swale is limiting, and the applicant is requesting that it just be stormwater facility. However, it ends up being completed, whether it's grass or vegetation or both. So staff understands the applicant's request for this flexibility because ultimately all the stormwater has to be managed on their site. It has to be done in accordance with the development code, so it can be done in more than one way. And so providing the flexibility and the condition of approval staff is amenable to that because it doesn't change the outcome appreciably. It just allows the applicant to combine two parallel landscaping areas into one. Just go over a couple other notable conditions of approval. There is a requirement. The applicant has submitted a floodplain permit. That would be issued following approval. Should this be approved by the Planning Commission this evening, the floodplain permit would be issued, and it would be more specific to some of the operational characteristics of the site to be in compliance with the city's floodplain regulations, which is the floodplain overlay district. And that also, in this specific case, pertains to establishment of a base flood elevation for the site, ensuring that there are no structures built on the site if it's within the floodplain, and also ensuring that any vehicles that are stored on the site, there's provision that they can be moved in the event of a flood, so they're not derelict or permanently stationed there. They're still movable and highway worthy, so to speak. After that, I guess I'll go down to the conditions of approval. So staff has outlined in your report, which is, I guess, expanded in size and scope because of the modified submittal, that the requested modified site plan meets the approval standards subject to the recommended conditions you have. I will let the applicant also present their perspectives on the request you have tonight from their memo as to some modified wording, some amended wording to the conditions of approval. And staff has reviewed those and is certainly supportive of some changes to the wording to allow for the site development to proceed with some flexibility for the applicant. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them. I guess one last thing I'd mention is that from the time of the original notification and mail out back in, it would have been January, through the continued public hearings to this time, there has been no public comment. So no objections, no concerns, no comments. So it's notable that only the applicant and the representative have been continued presence with this application. So there hasn't been any items requiring additional conditions of approval or attention by the commission. So,
Thank you very much, Andy.
yeah, you can stop sharing. Thank you.
All right. We'd love to hear from the applicant if you have some things to share with us.
Good evening, commissioners. My name is Zach Galloway. I'm a senior planner with TBG Architects and Planners. We're based at 375 West 4th in Eugene, Oregon. We're representing the applicant, Mr. Highland, who's here with us this evening. Andy was quite thorough in his overview of the site itself. I'll provide just a little background. I think we've been before you a couple times already with this project, but the site plan review is really kind of the last land use action that we're pursuing after a code interpretation to ensure that this particular land use is allowed by the future zoning district, which we undertook that back in 2022. We've then moved into an annexation process that went before the city council. And then most recently, we were before you all planning commissioners and then the city council to pursue a metro plan, or excuse me, a comprehensive plan amendment, as well as amendments to the official zoning map. So it's been a bit of a long road to get this prepared for development. And we're now moving forward with the site plan review. As you heard previously from your city attorney, we're here this evening really because this originally had a concurrent application with a major variance, which has been withdrawn. So just by a code construct where we're pursuing a public hearing, or we're here in a public hearing setting when oftentimes these issues are handled administratively. So I won't go into great detail other than to just highlight the couple items that are before you this evening that we're requesting revision to the conditions of approval. We've provided a memo to city staff, and then I believe you have a hard copy in front of you at the moment.
Thank you.
So just wanted to highlight a couple of those. As you heard from Andy, the ones on the front page, really we're looking for a little more flexibility by removing the detailed language from those conditions of approval. At this point in the design process, lots of things are moving. Obviously, we have an obligation to meet city code, and we will. However, some of the specificity in the code gave us concern and would potentially kind of inadvertently preclude us from doing different things with the site, or even could be construed as being internally inconsistent. So just going with a more generalized term, stormwater facilities with conditions 4 and 5. We're also requesting, let's see, that under condition 10, that we clarify the location of the required landscape setback area. As Andy alluded to, the fence line is much further south than the actual property line. So clarifying that required landscape area doesn't need to abut the property line, which there could be an assumption that that's the requirement. Obviously, that would be a complicating factor. And then the other language you see there in a legislative format is a request that the stormwater facility be combined, really just allowing that the stormwater facility be combined with the required landscape setback area. So again, these are all things that are allowed by code, and we just want to ensure that the conditions of approval don't preempt what the code allows as we move in through the design process and look at how best to meet the code standards as we move into construction. We feel these are pretty minor. We hope that you can incorporate those into your final order. You've heard from city staff that they're amenable to these, and I'm happy to answer any other questions that you might have this evening.
Any commissioners have any questions for the applicant? This is more a comment than a question. Just preface it by saying I'm supportive of what you're proposing tonight. I might just highlight, it would be, maybe a suggestion, I guess, is to get a clear definition of what kind of constitutes a structure when you get to that place, because I think it's inevitable that once you get to this developed, people are going to want to know, what options they have with temporary covers and those kind of things. And there's a line somewhere in there, which we won't get into here, but that might be something to get a clear definition on. Does that make sense?
You said for canopies, I'm not aware of.
If somebody has an RV, and they want to, put a cover over the top of it to keep it out.
This is purely for storage, so short-term storage. It's not for habitable space, let's say. If I understand what you're.
I don't think you do, but that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
All right.
All right. I think if that covers all of the commissioner's questions for the applicant, we can move on to any further deliberations, or I'm open to a motion.
Commissioner, sorry to interrupt, but just want to clarify that once the applicant is done, just query, I know there's no one here, but just query whether there's anyone here to speak in favor or against or neutral, and we'll have that on the record. And then you can ask questions. If there are any further questions, then you can close, then you can deliberate.
Thank you. All right. Well, thank you very much. Is there anybody who would like to speak in favor of the application? Anybody neither in favor nor against? And anybody opposed? Okay, hearing none. And commissioners, just one more call, see if anybody has any further comments or questions. Commissioner Weber?
I would just say, I think this is a good reuse of the property.
Concur. All right,
So you can, you can make a motion, we can move to close the record in the hearing and then come up and have discussion about the amended conditions of approval. Does that work? Okay.
all right. Remember, do we need to vote on that or on closing the hearing, or we can just do that? Yeah, all right. Well, at this time, we move to close the public comments on this item. And then we can move to deliberation. No, well, we need a motion before we can deliberate, right?
Right. So just say you're going to close the public hearing and the record and then move on to deliberation and we're good to move forward.
Thank you. All right. I hereby close the public hearing and the record. And at this point, we're ready to move on to deliberation. We'd entertain a motion if someone has one.
The motion on your script doesn't contemplate the proposed changes and conditions of approval that the applicant has presented. So if the commission is in agreement, we can tweak the motion a little bit to include those change conditions of approval, or you can ask staff about any one of those if you have further questions.
I think just tweak it.
We good?
Yes, tweak
Okay.
it.
All right. Okay. Hang on just a sec. We'll get you an amended motion.
Hardest thing is like, just give Weber a crack at this. It's not rocket science.
I'll do something.
Can't take you anywhere. You can.
All right, we have it. Okay, I move to approve the final order as seen in attachment 4 of the agenda packet for this item with the conditions included in Exhibit B as amended by applicant's memo.
I need a second. Thank you, Commissioner Driggs. All right, we have a motion, we have it seconded. Is there any discussion on this item? Commissioner Thompson and Driggs, do you guys have any comments for this?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Then, hearing no discussion, can we have a roll call?
Sure, I'll start online first. Commissioner Driggs,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Schmunk,
Aye.
Commissioner Greenwell,
Aye.
Commissioner Weber,
Aye.
and Chair Buck.
Aye.
So motion carries 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Excellent, thank you.
Sorry, 6. We're missing a commissioner. So
Right.
6, thank you.
All right, excellent. We'll now hear business from the Planning Commission. Are there any reports of council action? All right, thank you.
We did have a CDAC meeting a couple weeks ago, kind of the first of looking at what potentially would be a budget for the coming year and some discussions about what might happen if the grant money is either less or more than Springfield is currently getting for the housing programs. And we forwarded those to City Council.
Excellent. All right, what's your follow-up question?
Follow-up question would be to Sarah. Is it appropriate to add the minutes from that meeting into the Planning Commission record, or does that happen automatically?
Now, those minutes are not put into the Planning Commission record, but I am can look and see if they are posted. Do you post them on Springfield Oregon Speaks?
Yeah.
Okay,
But they would be posted as minutes for the council, and then it posted our minutes that you reported on it.
I'm more or less thinking if there was anybody that was curious about all that happened in the meeting, more so than I can relate, that they would be available. That's
So
all.
it'll be available. They can view the council meeting.
well, I think he's talking about the CDAC meeting minutes.
And the C-
And
the
those
CDAC
would be posted when the CDAC meets again, when they get approved, but they
Exactly.
don't meet very often. So if anybody is curious, they'd have to make a request. But you could look at the agenda and then either follow up with you, Commissioner Greenwell, or wait till the minutes are posted.
Excellent. All right. Any other business from the planning commission? Any business from the Department of Public Works?
So we have a special guest tonight. He's come back for another taste of planning. So we'd like to thank our former commissioner who has come back to accept our gratitude for his service. And I've got a book that I'm going to present that has staff signatures. First off.
And I've got a plaque that I'm going to present as well.
Great.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
So it was really a great pleasure working with you and supporting on your role, and we've been missed. We haven't been able to fill your seat yet, as you can tell. But I'm wishing you the best in your professional development, because I know that's what's pulling you away. So an exciting development in your own life.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your service, Commissioner Rhodes. All right. And Sandy, does that conclude our business from the?
Almost. Do stay afterwards because there are some snacks and we can have a little more informal gathering. And then we will not meet as a planning commission. Your meeting in May, the first meeting is canceled. So you won't be meeting with us again until May 20th for a work session at 6 p.m.
All right. Well, with that, I adjourn the planning commission special meeting.